The New York Islanders announced the signing of two potential free agents over the weekend. We'll talk about the good points and some potential problems with this deal that could hurt the team down the road. All that and more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Monday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. We have got a busy show coming up today. I'm Gil Martin. I've been covering the New York Islanders for almost 2 decades, and I wrote the book Ice Wars on the history of the Islanders' rivalry with the Rangers from 1972 to the modern era. So glad you could join us today to talk a little Islanders hockey, and we have got a lot to cover. The Islanders over the weekend announcing the signing of two potential free agents, Kyle Palmieri and Adam Boqvist. We'll talk about the good and the bad from those two deals. We'll also talk about a questionable parting shot from Lou Lamoriello, and we'll continue our player-by-player analysis of the Islanders roster with the captain, Anders Lee. We start off today's show with the signings of Kyle Palmieri and Adam Boqvist. And I have to say that in many ways, I think these are not bad moves. I like the Boqvist deal straight up. There is no reservations here in my mind. Essentially, what you have is a 1-year deal on Boqvist, basically giving him $850,000. I think it's a smart move. Boqvist, still young, 24 years old, played 35 games last year, and had 2 goals and 6 assists in 17 games with the Islanders. Also moved up to play a little bit of forward. So I think that versatility is good. And when you look at the way Patrick Waugh wants to play, Adam Boqvist as a puck-moving, mobile defenseman certainly fits into that mold. This contract is close to the league minimum, and it's only a 1-year commitment. I think signing Adam Boqvist to that deal makes a lot of sense. The bigger deal, though, was signing Kyle Palmieri, the 34-year-old winger, to a 2-year deal with an average cap hit in each year of $4.75 million. I have no problem with bringing Palmieri back. Everydayers, you may recall, I said recently, about a week or 2 ago, that if you bring Palmieri back, it's got to be on a 1 or 2-year deal. So this is within those parameters. I think the money is fair, both to the player and to the Islanders. Maybe he could get a little more money if he hit the open market, but not much. I think what this is if it's a hometown discount, it's a slight one. Last year he played at a $5 million cap hit, so he took very small reduction there. And considering his age, I think that's perfectly fine. Here's what I don't like about the Palmieri deal. Well, first of all, Kyle Palmieri, 3rd on the team in goals. Gotta like bringing him back for that, because this team struggled to score with Kyle Palmieri in the lineup. He was 3rd on the team in points with 48, which is not a high number for the player who should be 3rd on your team in scoring. But again, played all 82 games, was fairly consistent, although after Brock Nelson got traded, Palmieri's production did certainly fall off down the stretch. Plus minus was ugly. It was a minus 17, which, not what you want in that sense. In fact, it was the worst plus minus on the Islanders. Part of that has to do with the fact that he sees a lot of action on the power play. He had 5 power play goals, which tied him with Anders Lee for the team lead. So 9 of his 48 points did come with the man advantage. But the thing about this deal that bothers me is that it includes a full no trade clause in the first year and then a 16-team no trade list in year 2. And I understand, okay, Kyle Palmieri wanted a certain amount of security if he was going to stay and commit to the Islanders. I get that. And I respect that. And if I'm Kyle Palmieri, I'm asking for that. But if I'm the New York Islanders and I am starting a retool and I need to get, as everydayers know, younger, faster, and more skilled, I don't want my hands tied going forward. The no trade clause is a sticker for me. It's a stickler because if the Islanders want to trade Palmieri and he doesn't want to go anywhere this year, he could just say no and reject any trade. And the Islanders need that flexibility with their players over 30. How did they get into this muddy middle? Part of the problem was Lou Lamoriello handing out bad contracts for too much money for too many years to players who didn't always deserve it, and handing out no trade clauses like Halloween candy every October 31st. No trade clauses should be reserved for a handful of players. Just, maybe 4, 5, 6 tops on your roster, preferably guys who are in their prime or up and coming, not guys who are 34 or 35. And look, Father Time remains undefeated. Kyle Palmieri at some point is going to start falling off as far as his production is concerned. And a 2-year commitment is not bad. Like I said, I have no problem with the money. I have no problem with the length of the contract. The mistake Lou Lamoriello made last year was not trading Kyle Palmieri after he traded Brock Nelson. But that ship has sailed. But giving a no trade clause, if we get close to the trade deadline and the Islanders are not in a playoff spot, because it is going to take time to move out some of these bad contracts and get the team younger, faster, and more skilled, having Kyle Palmieri locked in like that, I wouldn't have minded a 16-team list for the first season, and maybe even for both seasons. I'm willing to compromise on that to give the respect to Kyle Palmieri. Hey, you're a veteran. You've been here. You've helped this team. We respect that. We're not going to send you someplace you really don't want to go. But to tie the team's hands entirely, I have a problem with that, because this team, ultimately, to get out of the muddy middle, you're going to need to move on from veterans, including veterans who have been great Islanders, who have helped this team to, accomplish what they did in the last 5, 6, 7, 10 years, depending on the player. And unfortunately, hockey is a business, and the goal is to win. And at certain points, you're going to need to move on from some of these older guys. Now, look, Kyle Palmieri could say, I don't like the way this team is run under Matthew Darche, or this team is not winning right now. If you could trade me to a cup contender at the deadline, I'll sign off on it. But he could also veto it and slow down the retool and the transition that this team needs to make. So while Matthew Darche may have just rubber stamped a deal that Lou Lamoriello made earlier and just honored it, which is, okay, whatever. That no trade clause is just making similar mistakes over and over again and expecting a different result. And therein lies the problem that could hamstring this team going forward. Kyle Palmieri, Long Island native, good Islander, welcoming him back, no problem. But that full no trade clause and the second year with a 16-team list, it ties the hands of Darche and the Islanders going forward. And I really would have preferred a 16-team list in year one and nothing in year two, or I would even have compromised on a 16-team list in both years. But I'm not thrilled with the way this deal was laid out as far as the no trade clause was concerned. But hopefully Palmieri stays healthy again this year and can continue to give you that 20 to 25 goals that he's capable of giving you. If he plays 75 or more games, I'm confident he'll hit 20 goals. And hopefully the slowdown that inevitably hits almost every player when they get into their mid to late 30s doesn't happen right away here for Kyle Palmieri. We have got a lot more to discuss. Lou Lamoriello making a questionable move before he departs Long Island. We're going to talk about that. We'll have Anders Lee as we continue our player-by-player look at the team, and a Swedish winger who played with the Islanders in the mid-2000s. He is our Islanders birthday of the day. All that and more next on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, so fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. And hockey fans, with the Stanley Cup Final starting later this week, check out all the latest odds on FanDuel so you could use your knowledge of hockey on the website. So if you're new to FanDuel, this is the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Again, FanDuel.com, place that first $5 bet, and if it wins, you get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. So, a lot of reporting over the weekend. It broke late on Friday about Lou Lamoriello and something he apparently did on his way out. Now, we don't know. Again, Lou Lamoriello is very secretive, doesn't say much, shares very little. Thankfully, it appears we're entering an era where at least Matthew Darche is going to be, as he put it, as honest and straightforward as he can be under the circumstances. So, according to reports by David Pagnotta and Andy Strickland, one of the loose ends, and I'll put that in air quotes, that Lou Lamoriello may have handled before his departure were signing his son, Chris Lamoriello, and assistant general manager Chris Lamarello, assistant general manager Steve Pellegrini to new contract extensions. Now, it has not been officially announced yet, but it's been mentioned by multiple sources, and according to those sources, we're probably looking at a 3-year extension. Now, let's leave let's leave Pellegrini out of this for a minute. He's the cap guy. I'm not going to make a judgment here. But as far as Chris Lamarello goes, he was the assistant general manager working under his father. And he also was the general manager of the Bridgeport Islanders, a team that has back-to-back last place finishes, has not done a very good job of prospect development, and who just set a record, an AHL record, and the AHL goes back many, many years, an AHL record for futility by winning just 4 home games out of 36 games scheduled. And now the situation is this. Matthew Darche has said he wants to emphasize Bridgeport and making it a whole different kind of a part of the organization, that it coordinates better with the NHL club, that it becomes, something that helps the organization as opposed to hinder it. Every day, as you know, we've talked about the black hole that Bridgeport had become, where prospects go in, but they never seem to come out on the other end and be NHL players. And to extend Chris Lamoriello that way, whether it was done 6 months ago or after Lou knew he was headed out the door, it doesn't seem on its face that Chris Lamoriello deserved that extension based on the way things have gone in Bridgeport in recent years. And so Matthew Darche now has a choice. He could stick with Chris Lamoriello, who is not his guy, although he may be willing to work with him, in which case you have less of the needed changes that have to be made, or ownership will have to pay Chris Lamoriello for the remaining years of the extension that he signed, and then pay whoever Matthew Darche decides to bring in to be assistant GM/GM of the Bridgeport Islanders. And, this is just a disturbing development, because I get it. As a father, I get it. You want to watch after your kids, protect them. I mean, Chris is an adult. He's not like 12, okay? But you still, no matter how old you are, no matter how old they are, you want to help your kids as much as you can in reasonable ways. But if you're the general manager of the New York Islanders, you have a fiduciary duty to the hockey team to do what's in the best interests of the team. And it seems to me that extending Chris Lamoriello based on the poor performance we have seen in Bridgeport in recent years doesn't make a lot of sense, and may be almost breaking that fiduciary duty to do what's best for your organization. I do not like this deal. And, everybody in the comments for weeks, for months, we've been talking about how, are they going to move on from Chris Lamoriello? He is still officially on the team's website, listed as the assistant GM. And we don't know what ultimately Matthew Darche is going to decide to do about the Chris Lamoriello situation. But again, to tie the hands of the organization as you're heading out the door, or to even extend an assistant GM if you did it 6 months ago before you knew you were out the door, an assistant GM who just hasn't gotten the job done by any objective measure in a satisfactory way. Bridgeport this year had the worst record in the AHL, and it wasn't even close. They finished last for the second year in a row. We talked about the historically bad home losses. We've talked about the failure to develop prospects on a consistent basis. And not all of that is Chris Lamoriello's fault. Some of that falls on Lou because, again, you trade away 4 first-round draft picks in a row. You trade away Atu Ratu, who was considered the top prospect in the organization. When you make those kind of moves, and he did that to try to stabilize the NHL team, your prospect pool is going to suffer. But that doesn't stop Chris Lamoriello from signing better AHL veterans, from putting together a better team, from being able to develop the players that he was given by the big club in order to get them ready to be NHL players. And it just leaves a bad taste in my mouth to see this kind of move coming to light. And again, Lou tended to operate in secrecy, and I don't like that when it's not necessary. And I just don't like this transaction. So here's a big question. Matthew Darche is talking to Lou a lot. He said he spoke to Lou for 3-4 hours, and he's listening. And that makes sense. If I'm the new GM of a team and the previous GM is going to get me up to speed, great. And he's going to give me advice, great. I can take that advice or leave it. But for Lou to handicap or force his son on the new GM and the new president of hockey operations, it just doesn't seem right to me. And we'll see how Darche handles it. I still think they should move on from Chris Lamoriello, but we'll see. Ownership looking to save money. I mean, when they fired the radio crew for crying out loud, which they should not have done. Penny wise, pound foolish. 2 people who were part of the heart and soul of the Islanders community and fan base. This just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. We'll see how Matthew Darche handles it going forward. We have got more to get to on today's show. We'll continue our player-by-player look at the Islanders with Anders Lee, the captain. We'll discuss what he did last season and where he fits in next season, what his role could be and the impact he could have on this team. We'll do that, plus our Islanders birthday of the day next on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. We continue our player-by-player look at the Islanders with Anders Lee. Everydayers, you'll know, we've been doing one player per day for the last 3+ weeks, and we've got a little more to go. We've done Semyon Varlamov, we've done Anthony Duclair, Matthew Barzal, Bo Horvat, we've done Pierre Engvall, Matt Martin. Today, Anders Lee. And this was a very good bounce-back season for Anders Lee. In fact, he actually scored the second most points in his NHL career, the most points all the way back in 2017, 2018, when he had 40 goals and 62 points. So this year, 29 goals, that led the team. 54 points, which is really, really good. And it was a revival. He only scored 20 goals and 37 points the year before. So that is a 17-point increase for Anders Lee. And I give Lee a lot of credit. He worked on his skating. He worked on different aspects of his game over the offseason, and he bounced back. Now, you got to give credit where credit is due. I'm very happy about that. But Anders Lee, in 1 month, July 3rd to be exact, will turn 35 years old. He is now entering the last year of his current deal at $7 million AAV. And that $7 million while it was extremely high when he was a 37-point player a year ago, at 54 points and 29 goals, it's, a little high, but not much. It's right in line with where he ought to be. And the cap has gone up. So again, that $7 million not going to scare off too many people anymore. So the question becomes, where does he fit in going forward? He is your captain. He will almost certainly start the season with this team. The question is, when you get closer to the trade deadline, and again, we know the team needs to get younger, faster, and more skilled, do you look to trade Anders Lee to a contending team if the Islanders are not in contention to try to build up more assets on this retool? Even if the Islanders are going to even take a couple of years to retool, he's going to be 35 next year, 36 the year after that. Again, how much more does Anders Lee have left to give? Will his trade value ever be higher than it is right now, coming off the improbable 29-goal season? Can he match that or at least get to 25 goals this year? Can he stay healthy again and give you another 82 games, which he's been remarkably healthy over the last 4 seasons? 76 games, 82, 81, and 82. Got to keep that up. It's great. So we'll see. If he stays, he's still a top 6 forward, probably first line or second line, depending on who else gets brought in, who stays healthy. Ideally a second line guy at this point, but easily could fit in on the first line. Going to be on the power play, 5 power play goals, tied for the team lead. Going to get in front of that net and battle. That's what he does. And he's going to continue to play the same kind of a role, I think, that he's played. The concern, again, is with Father Time and when he starts to slow down. But I'll put it this way. Assuming that he stays on this roster to start the season, and I think he will. He was there at the Darche press conference. As the season progresses, you see how Anders Lee is playing. You see how the team is doing. I would be inclined as of now to probably move him at the deadline. But again, we have to see where the team is at, how the player is doing, and what his value is. And I am hesitant to continue to sign some of these older players to extensions. But again, we'll see where it's at. So that's Anders Lee. He gets an A- for his season. I think it was a great year. And congratulations to him for the bounce back season. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day. And Sunday was the 45th birthday of former Islanders winger Mattias Vinhandel, the Swedish native, a third-round pick of the Islanders in 1999. Came to North America in 2002-2003, split the season there between the Islanders and Bridgeport. In the following year, played 55 games for the Islanders, 8 goals, 20 points. Played 53 more in 2005-2006 before being dealt to the Minnesota Wild. Spent parts of 2 seasons there and then headed back to the KHL and the Swedish Elite League to finish out his pro career. Hung up his skates after the 2012-2013 campaign. Had 19 goals, 56 points in 182 NHL games. Played his only 5 playoff games for the Islanders, all in 03-04. Did not have a point, did have 2 penalty minutes. One of his better games as an Islander, February 27th, 2004, Islanders in Buffalo to take on the Sabres. Rick DiPietro and Martin Biron are the goalies, and our Islanders' birthday of the day, Mattias Vinhandel, he assists on a goal by Mariusz Czerkowski late in the first period to make the score 1-0 Islanders. Then, with the Islanders up 2-1 and on the power play late in the second period, as Rory Fitzpatrick was off for interference. Wienhandel scores a power play goal. Oleg Kavasha and Yanni Nienema with the assist. That puts the Isles up 3-1. They end up winning the game by a final score of 4-2 for Wienhandel. A goal, an assist. He was a +1. He scored on his only shot. He had the game-winning goal, and he did it in 11 minutes and 19 seconds of action. So Matthias Wienhandel is our Islanders' birthday of the day. Thank you for making Locked On Islanders your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On NHL Game Night. Every game, every night until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, email us at lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever's on your mind. You could follow the show on X at Locked On Isles. You could follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR, VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all year long, and I am happy to talk Islanders hockey with you, game time or anytime. Everydayers, we are back tomorrow as we continue our player-by-player look at the Islanders. We'll talk a little Hudson Fasching. I know he didn't do as well this year as he did the previous season. Does he have a future on Long Island? We'll discuss that. We'll talk a little bit more about Bo Horvat's injury and his status, and maybe we'll find out a little bit more about Chris Lamarello's situation. So make sure you join us for that. Until then, have a great day, everybody. Stay safe. And of course, let's go Islanders.